Okay, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Would you please stand for the opening prayer and the pledge, please?
Lord, we're gathered here tonight to conduct matters of business. Guide our hearts and our minds in the spirit of fairness, right thought, and speech. Impart your supreme wisdom upon our activities so that our affairs may reach a successful conclusion. Thank you for being the source of our guidance tonight. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Need the roll call. Lorraine?
Present.
Shoemaker? Present. Mathis is absent. Krug is present. Kessler?
Here.
Gopal?
Here.
And Tucker is absent as we speak, but
He will be.
probably be here, so. Okay, the first thing we need to do in the absence of Supervisor Mathis is to appoint a chairman pro tem. Need a motion, please.
I move Clerk Krug. Support.
Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. To let you folks in the audience know that the meeting tonight is televised and it's shown on channel 191. So if you want to speak, please give us your name, but you don't have to give us your address or anything like that, unless you wish to, okay? Approval of the agenda. Are there any additions or deletions? Okay, I need a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
So moved. Support.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Next are the meeting minutes from the December 4th meeting. Are there any corrections or requests for revisions to the meeting minutes of the 4th? Okay, hearing none, the meeting minutes stand approved as presented. Expenditures, are there any questions regarding any of the invoices that we have in the expenditures tonight? Okay, I need a motion is in order to approve the expenditures totaling $344,794.50.
So moved. Support.
Roll call, Tom?
Lorraine.
Yes.
Shoemaker.
Yes.
Mathis is absent. Krug.
Yes,
Kessler.
Yes.
Gopal.
Yes.
Tucker's absent. Motion carries.
thank you. Moving right along tonight, we have public hearing. This is I believe this is the first one, isn't it? Yeah. This is the public hearing on a special assessed roll for Byram Ridge number 1. It's in regards to the street lighting, and the proposed assess amount is $52.84 per parcel for the first year, and approximately $33.97 for each year thereafter. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to speak on the Byram Ridge special assessment? Okay, any comments from the board? Moving right along, we have resolution 2017-55. Could you read that, please, Mr. Broker?
Certainly. Resolution 2017-55. In summary, it designates the special assessment roll as Fenton Township Special Assessment Roll number 2018-1. Confirms the roll as the special assessment roll for the Byram Ridge number 1 Street Lighting Special Assessment District, establishes annual installments in the roll, each due and payable on December 1st, assigns a 1% per month penalty for late payments, directs the treasurer to collect the assessments, and repeals any conflicting resolutions.
I'll move the resolution. Do I have a second?
Support.
Thank you. Roll call, Tom.
Approved.
Yes.
Mathis is absent. Kessler.
Yes.
Shoemaker.
Yes.
Gopel.
Yes.
Tucker.
Aye. Well, yes and on.
Resolution for Byram Ridge.
Confirming the roll for the Byram Ridge Street Lighting.
Good with that.
Okay. Lorraine.
Yes.
Motion carries. Resolution's adopted.
Thank you. Are there any committee reports to be made to the board tonight? Okay, there are no communications. Moving on, we have adoption of ordinances. This is the first reading of a proposed rezoning amendment to rezone property on Linden Road from R3 to Ag. This is the first reading of the proposed rezoning. And I would ask Mr. Tucker, was there anything you can add to us, John?
Yeah, we actually had a pretty busy planning commission meeting in December, which is really unusual. And what's odd about it is we actually had a number of rezoning requests at the meeting. So we had a pretty good crowd. For reasons I can't really explain, everybody really liked Charlie. I mean, I don't. I found that unusual. Like, up giving testimonials and, they had nothing but good things. I tried to find a more balanced view, but I couldn't get any takers on the subject. So I don't remember how many spoke on this particular application, but I think everybody was in favor of this one. The Planning Commission's view was essentially this is just a continuation of existing ag, a little different. As you all know, we have some language in the current master plan that can be problematic. To be quite honest with you, both this one and the one next, the Planning Commission kind of took the tact that that language is probably going to be softened when the master plan is finished, when the master plan update is finished. This particular application, I think the view was that irrespective of the changes in the master plan, this would still be consistent as just a continuation of what's been happening out there for longer than Charlie's been there, I think. So I don't think there was, I hate to call them no-brainers, but this is probably one of them that came pretty close to that label.
Well, one thing I wanted to point out, and it's not specific to any of the rezoning requests. I was new on the board with Charlie when we did the last master plan, and in order to not conflict with what the master plan was going to be, we had a moratorium. Don't know if that's,
Yeah, we didn't do any such thing this time.
I know, but should we?
Oh. Yeah, I don't know. I mean,
Okay.
sitting here in December, and I was surprised that we had, I think it was 3 rezones. One was an amendment to a PUD, but, 2 straight rezones and an amendment to the PUD in December. That's just not the way it usually works. People are trying to get things, in arrangement for the work year, and obviously that's gone now. So Charlie's ahead of the curve, and Mr. White, he's trying to get his thing going, but that's unusual. I don't see a need if we get into February and we still aren't close to the end. That's probably something we could think about or talk about.
It's just a thought.
Yeah.
Okay. Are there any public comments in regarding the rezoning request? Okay, I see none, so the second reading of the proposed rezoning ordinance will be conducted at our January 8th meeting. The next one is rezoning for Ridgeway White. This is the first reading of a proposed rezoning amendment to rezone property on Swanee Beach Drive from R3 to Ag with conditions. John?
Thank you, Robert. As I mentioned, we had a pretty good crowd for this meeting. And as it turns out, when people are here for one item, they'll comment on another, just kind of the way it works. I didn't keep an exact score of the different comments that were made, but I'm going to just say for talking purposes, let's say there were a dozen people that talked on this particular item. If I was going to guess, I would say probably 7 of them raised concerns about smell, noise, animals possibly intruding onto the adjoining properties. And they kind of fell into that camp, concerns about, it was primarily animal things. Nobody has ever, as the board knows, this has been around 2 or 3 times now, different variations. Nobody's ever had an objection to the orchard portion of what he's doing. That's pretty mindless. The list of animals that were here this time was much better received than before when we had some bison included. Those have been removed and replaced with the donkey. I tried to get an explanation for that. I think he's going to do a nativity scene is what I think he's up to. But so the other, let's say 5, and I'm just kind of giving you just a sense of how the public comment went, were very much in favor of what he wanted to do. And the basic gist of what those people had to say is it's a minimal number of animals on a fairly large piece of property, and we would rather have that than X number of houses. Okay, now there's no guarantee that you're going to never have X number of houses, because that is master plan for that kind of thing. But I think if you talk to those 5 or however many they were, they would tell you, we'd rather take a chance on this minimal agriculturally oriented venture that Mr. White is proposing than we would waiting for it to develop into a bunch of houses. And there were traffic concerns, and there were a number of kinds of things. Plan Commission, I said it, and I think I was reflecting what a lot of them were feeling. It's a tough call, because that's really what you're doing. You're balancing the potential issues relating to animals with potential 100+ housing development, and obviously that comes with issues too. Generally not the smell and the wandering into the backyard and kinds of things that you can be worried about with animals, but development in general comes with issues. So it's not a clear thing. And as I mentioned, we kind of looked at these, all of them, is that the language of the master plan about agriculture would probably be softened in some fashion. So that, and so what you're trying to do is you're trying to balance. And when you put ag next to residential, those are the issues you get. So a lot of discussion, a lot of issues were raised. There was a lot of talk about different things. At the end of the day, it was a 4-2 vote in favor of recommending approval for it. I was one of the 2 that said no, and I'll tell you why. Conditional zoning, we've talked about it before. They bring you the list. Yep. You can't draw your own. So you really have to resist the temptation of, I'd be in favor of this if you do that. But my real problem with it is, this was raised by some of the folks. Because if you look at the pictures, the westerly boundary, and the northerly boundary, and it wraps around on the west is straight residential subdivisions in line. They were worried that there was no setback for the animals for those housing developments. If you look at the aerial, there's plenty of room to do that, but that wasn't one of the conditions he proposed. I was fine personally myself with the list of animals, and Don, I think, was the other one who voted no on it. I think she would have been fine had there been some setback. Talked to Mr. White, told him he had an opportunity to amend if he wanted to. He declined at that point. So that's kind of where it was. My sense was the planning commissioners were all in favor of the current animal list. They were okay with that. Some of the residents weren't. Smell, cows, there were some issues with that. Planning commissioners, I think, were okay. The 2 that weren't, if you ask me, were because there was nothing in the conditions that said there had to be some setback from the animals from the north and west corner there. Probably more than you wanted to know. But we had a long meeting.
The only thing I have about it is we had some issues and he was denied this earlier. and he basically said, you had built his barn anyway.
He did.
And
That
that's
didn't-
not a good neighbor policy.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, there's a barn there, and Plan Commissioner was aware of it. It was made known earlier on, that we talked about having code enforcement take a look at it. But I will say that really it didn't come into play in our discussions. Whether it should have or shouldn't have, I don't know, but it was never brought up. He was never questioned about it. He did acknowledge that, yes, in fact, he had done it. By all reports, I haven't looked at it myself, by all reports, it's a nice structure, but the point that you made.
very nice, huge structure.
The point that you make is a valid one. It was done without permits. So,
Okay. Is there any questions from the board? Anyone in the audience comment on this rezoning?
Yep, I'll go first.
you wore a tie this time. Well, I did too. I didn't know that we were going to do that. I didn't have one last time.
Just wish I could deduct the uniform, that's all.
Check the new tax code.
Yeah, exactly. Well, go back to conference again, huh? Eric Sloan, live in Grove Park, would be the north side of Grove Park, pretty much across from the property. My other neighbor is here, David Allen. Two other neighbors that were against it are not here today, I see. Mr. Tucker did a good summary of the spirit of the conversation that went on the other night, Thursday night actually. I guess we are against it primarily because we're sticking a farm in a residential area. My neighbor David Allen had his council pull some information Friday, and I have with me, and I'm not going to try to play lawyer here because I'm not one, but we've got apparently a zoning ordinance. I'm looking at Article 14-3. It's a page that she gave us that was key. Paragraph number 2, it sounds like to us that there can be no changes unless there's conditions or township policy has changed, or to address a mistake that was made with zoning, the master plan back in the day, whenever that was, or if there's a change. Was there a mistake made not to have it ag back in the day? It's clearly R3 and has been that way for a long time. To backtrack a little bit, some of the people that spoke somewhat for it were also in the area. One was on Swanee Beach next to the wetlands. He's clearly not going to have a farm on about 2/3 of the property, which is wetlands. Maybe 60% is wetlands. The high ground is out by Grove Park and the other street to the west. So that's obviously where it would, stick the farm. Also, number 3, the Planning Commission must find that there is adequate sewer capacity. Didn't hear much about sewer capacity Thursday night on this at all. So I don't know if the Planning Commission had that addressed or not on the front end. G, looks like there's timing, that there's a report to be issued, and that it had to go by certified mail to the township clerk. The question would be, did whatever's in G here, did Mr. White do certified mail? Did it get on time to therefore set up for the next meeting, which is H? Maybe a procedural question. Is it the right time to even hear this, and is there compliance there? We also polled the current planning, master plan. There's agriculture sprinkled, the property is about right here. Here's the south end of the lake. We're all right here. This is the piece of the property in question. I guess there's one piece of ag here, but, that's next to all that commercial property on Torrey. And, I don't see any farm going on there. And in the proposed, and hopefully I got the right picture off she got the right picture. This is what's proposed. I see 0 ag color-coded on this map at all for what's being considered now as a master plan. Maybe there's talk that has been going on in hearings or meetings. We don't see anything in whatever proposed plan that the township is being considered here. And with all due respect, one member of the Planning Commission was pretty adamant that, we need to keep the impact rural in Fenton Township. Well, okay, he's got a personal opinion, I guess. Frankly, I don't see a problem with 120 houses put in across the street from me. I know there'd be sewers, it'd be all controlled, there'd be a developer, they'd go through whatever problem. Maybe there should be houses there and not a farm. And do I get a second shot if something else comes up in my mind after my neighbor goes?
Well, this is the time for the
Okay.
public hearing in regards to the rezoning request.
Okay.
There will be another time at the planning commission in my, no?
Okay. Well, and to add on to Mr. Krug, the issue of a neighbor that put up a big barn, didn't pull permits on a residential property, got a big problem with the behavior. And I'm not so sure we're going to end up with only 5 horses, only 10 chickens, only 2 goats, only 5 cows, and only 1 donkey. Is our fine township, our deputy sheriffs in Genesee County going to control that? Who's going to control it?
Well,
Who's going to be in charge of the ordinance to be sure he's only got those animals there and no more?
we have a very effective ordinance enforcement officer.
Mr. Shaw's a great guy.
Yep. And if it passes, and if he built and he violated the conditions that he presented to the planning commission, then at that time, we would respond accordingly.
I understand. If he does it, I guess I'm gonna have to buy a drone and take a look at it here and there.
Well, keep in mind that in Fenton Township, we don't go looking for issues with ordinance violations, and it's normally, well, almost every time, started by a complaint or a request for review from a resident.
Clearly understand. I was there last year with the rebuild next to us on Grove Park. I understand.
Anything you'd like to ask the gentleman board? Okay. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Please just go up and give your name, please.
My name is David Allen, and I was here at the meeting on Wednesday, I believe it was, or whenever it was. And the gentleman who is presented the petition did not seem to place any limitations on what he was going to do whatsoever, but quite the opposite. And it's very concerning. It's 5 cows-ish, 10 chickens-ish, and he was given an opportunity, like Mr. Tucker said, do you want to maybe hone this in a little bit and get more specific or narrow it down? There was concerns with cows coming right up against people's residential fences and stuff, and he said, no, I'm not, no restrictions. There's a big concern with smell. I know it's been raised, but I drive up and down Argentine Road, which is zoned agriculture, and you can smell it a mile away. When it gets to be 95 degrees out on those sunny days and that wind's waffling back and forth, there's no stopping it. And one of the board members did mention last time we got together was, yeah, it's going to smell, but we can probably keep it under control, or words to that effect. How so? It's just not possible, and I'm really concerned with the property values. And there was also mention of, well, he would also be allowed to put a roadside stand up if you got fruit and vegetables and stuff. Well, the only real access or access that seems to be directly across the street from my house on Grove Park. There's no sidewalks. It's 2 lanes. When you start parking a bunch of cars up and down there, people are either going to be walking down the middle of the street or right across people's lawns. I mean, I don't believe when we consider that we're going to allow for a roadside stand, as we see it at Spicer's and other places. Is there any plan to redo the street, put sidewalks in, accommodate some parking? It's going to be chaos there. And I'm concerned with property values. This is an upscale lakefront community. There's a lot of other places you can put a farm real close by. If he wants to raise his family up on a farm, God bless him. I wish him the best. This is not the best place to put a farm in the middle of upscale lakefront community. So those are my concerns.
Okay, thank you. Is there anyone else that would like to address the board? Seeing none, the second reading of the proposed rezoning ordinance will be conducted at the July 8th. Yeah, don't I wish. Shows you I really love this snow. That's a Freudian slip. I was shoveling, so it should be July. Let's try January 8th meeting. Unfinished business, there is none. New business, this is the action that we postponed at our legal advisor's request in regards to the inspection service by D&G. I believe all the issues have been taken care of. So I need a motion to approve the 2018 Building Inspector Service Agreement with D&G of Michigan Incorporated as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Shoemaker. Yes. Gopel.
Yes.
Tucker.
Yes.
Kessler.
Yes.
Lorraine.
Yes.
Krug.
Yes.
Mathis is absent, motion carries.
Okay, moving along. The next is, pardon me, proposed amendments to the 2017 Township budget. Mr. Broker, please.
Okay, you have in your packet the proposed final amendments to this year's budget. Try to hit a few of the highlights. In the general fund, the budget column is showing a projected deficit of almost $100,000, but the actual projections actually are going to be a small surplus, we believe. We always leave extra room in some of the categories to make sure we're not hit by surprises and cause a budget violation. So we do expect to add a little bit to fund balance this year. Some of the highlights in the general fund, revenue sharing is increased based on the most recent state treasury department estimates. The revenue from the sale of tax reverted properties was decreased due to some properties not being sold at this time. Law enforcement expense was increased as a precaution because their December invoice typically includes a large year-end accrual, which has zapped us in the past. We won't get that until January. Road improvement expense was decreased due to project costs coming in under budget. OPEB expense was increased due to shifting the contribution from the sewer fund to the general fund, and the operating transfer to the sewer fund is being reduced to bring everything back into line as far as maintaining a small surplus for the year. In the fire fund, the final amendment shows a deficit of $173,400. That's due to making the initial payment on the new rescue squad trucks this year. The actual deficit is projected to be more like around $40,000 to $45,000. The only significant change is really removing the budget, budget for the remainder of the budget for the new trucks to 2018, as well as the revenue from selling the old trucks. At the time we set the budget, we thought it might occur this year, but it'll be in the spring. Solid Waste Management Fund, we're projecting only a small deficit for this year, which is we should have had a much larger deficit, but we've done well with the assessments. We're just increasing revenues and expenses on both sides to match the projected totals. Mosquito control is not in your packet. We're not proposing any amendments, but the actual expense will be almost $26,000 under budget, still leaving a pretty good surplus in the fund. We'll be able to reduce the assessment again in 2018 and probably for the next few years. The sewer fund cash flows are showing signs of improvement for the first time in several years. While some expense categories are being increased, others are being reduced, resulting in a net increase in sewer operations of only $18,000, which is offset by the elimination of the OPEB expense. Projections for the major expense categories are being adjusted to match the anticipated numbers. We're benefiting greatly from the sewer pump station upgrade project, as the costs for contracted services, repairs, and emergency calls have dropped off dramatically in the last few months. The operating transfer from the general fund is being reduced to $125,000, which is the lowest amount since we started subsidizing the sewer fund in 2013. Other than that, I'd be happy to answer any other questions you might have.
Any comments or questions from the board?
No.
Any comments or questions from the audience in regard to the budget? Okay, need a motion to adopt the amendments to the 2017 Fenton Township budget as presented.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Mathis is absent. Kessler?
Yes.
Krug?
Yes.
Gopel?
Yes.
Tucker?
Yes.
Lorraine?
Yes.
Shoemaker?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Any board comments tonight?
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas to all.
And just a quick, if you like to run your dog in snow, the dog park is still open. So,
Slush by now, right?
Stay away from the yellows.
yeah, don't eat the yellow snow. Any public comment tonight on any agenda items or non-agenda items? If not, I'll wish you all a happy holidays and a Merry Christmas, and I'll adjourn at 8:04.